A quick intro. So just a really quick intro into work that we do here at Ready for Next. I also refer to it, we all refer to it as RFN. So if you hear me use that acronym, that's just our company name shortened so that we don't trip over it all the time. So I've been doing business succession, transition planning, exit planning, value growth advisory work for a few decades. I told Nancy I wasn't going to go into a long bio, but it's more than 3. So I've got some experience and I've got some stories and whatnot that I can share with you. And today, the reason that we are here is, of course, we're going to be talking about succession planning in rural Alberta. And it isn't just a business issue, it is a community one. So while longstanding businesses close, when longstanding businesses close without any kind of a plan, it really does ripple through the employment, the services, and local identity. So the work that we do, we at RFN actually help owners as well as economic development consultants and advisors grow transferable value and prepare for transition. So our aim is measurable value growth and readiness and continuity for not only our owners, but for the community. So today, that was me. And today what we're going to cover is we're going to move from the owner's reality, which is readiness, risks, value, to the EDA role. So how you convene, connect, and champion. And you can expect today to receive some practical tools and some Alberta case stories that you can borrow for tomorrow. The succession planning question. So what is succession planning? It's often referred to in a few different ways. Succession in our world, we usually refer to it when we talk about transfers of leadership positions. So somebody moving from the role that they're in to another role and having somebody move into that position. But it is often talked about when we're referring to exit planning, transaction and transition planning that are actually different owners or different ownership structures. So it's more than selling, it's actually ensuring that the enterprise thrives beyond the founder or founders, and it's risk management for the community and a strategic project that needs time, coordination, and clarity. So why does it matter so much in rural Alberta? Well, Alberta leads the nation in small business density. You have 37.7 small businesses per 1,000 of adults, which is the highest in Canada. Therefore, without planning, we lose jobs, we lose tax base, we lose local services. And I would go so far as to say that succession planning is core economic development. The community ripple effect is that when a business closes, we don't just look at a storefront. It's not just a storefront. We actually lose the foot traffic that brought those people to that storefront, and we lose youth opportunities, we lose momentum. While on the opposite side of that, every successful transition actually preserves local confidence. So the owner readiness reality, though, most owners, and I do say most, this is a look at Canada as a nation, as a whole, the owner readiness reality shows that most owners, unfortunately, are caught between intention and action. The gap is where value is lost and also where you can help with preparing them or bringing them information that can help overcome this. They lack formal plans. They struggle to find buyers. They keep wealth tied up, and it's not intentional to keep the wealth tied up, but it is tied up in the business because it's illiquid. There's no way to extract the value that they've built in their companies easily. And that jeopardizes both retirements for the individual owners as well as the local continuity. So common misconceptions that we hear, you might hear, these are well, called common for a reason. Some of the myths that we hear are that my kids will take over, or it's too early to talk about this, or someone will buy it. I know the value of my company. I plan to retire at this age. I'll worry about it then. And I would think that actually one of the biggest barriers, like our job is to turn these, I wouldn't call them excuses, but these roadblocks to even engage in the conversations about getting ready to plan. We need, like, our job is to turn these myths into manageable steps. Honestly, owners have a need and usually fall into three categories when we're working with them. They're looking for clarity, in other words, looking for what are all of their options. They want to know what are the options available to me right now. They will be focused on potentially liquidity, which is the unlocking of the value that they've held in their businesses. A minute ago, I said that the predominant amount of a business owner's wealth is actually trapped in their business. So they're wanting to know, how do I unlock this? How do I get at it? And legacy. And legacy is a really big component to any of our exit planning readiness assessments and work with our clients. In other words, they either want to keep it in the family or they want to keep it local in the community. So owner preparedness, well, unfortunately, I did put at the very bottom of that last screen. I'm just going to back up for 1 second. The I will have time later at the bottom of the screen. Life doesn't always allow you to work on your own timeline. I know there's lots of adages about people laugh while you're busy making plans because life unfolds in a way that you haven't planned for. Saying that, the stark reality is that 55% of all businesses and all exits, are involuntary, and they're forced by a dramatic external factor. The 5 Ds, there's more than just 5, but the predominant 5 Ds, of course, that trigger exits are the death, the disability, divorce, dispute, or distress. And honestly, planning early can shift the outcome from a liquidation event to an orderly transition. That only gets done if there is a plan. Across Canada, and again, I'm not going to talk too much more about the statistics of this, but across Canada, 40% don't have any contingency plan if they were to die prematurely or become permanently disabled. The other stark reality, of course, is that we have 70 to 80% of private businesses that actually fail to transfer. That's a stat that is common across actually North America. A lot of different countries have the exact same outcomes. And a lot of that has to do with the preparation and the readiness that the business undergoes or the owner undergoes in furtherance of a sale or attempting to get ready for a transaction. 88% of family businesses actually fail to make it to the third generation. 66% of business owners are actually unfamiliar with the complete suite of transition options that are available to them. And I'm going to go into that in just a tiny bit more detail. Most have no formal transition team, meaning they wouldn't even know who to call or where to start to build that team around them, that ecosystem of professionals that surround them to help support them through these discussions, negotiations, and transactions. And 93% don't have a life after business plan. I know that sounds a little, what do you mean by that? Well, people need purpose. People need and have their identity very much wrapped up in, a lot of times, the businesses that they have curated and grown and babied and nurtured and loved for the duration that they've had it. So that has become part of their identity. And not knowing what comes next, what to be ready for, what to plan for, has a negative impact on the I would say the happiness level, or the like pro the statistic I'm struggling with and tripping over is that 74, I'm trying to put things in a positive light, and there isn't one for this one, but 74% of business owners after transaction or after transition are profoundly disappointed in the outcome. A lot of that is not only what they didn't know going into it that they really wish they had of and would have prepared better for. A lot of it also has to do with they really are lost, or a little bit discombobulated after the actual transaction because they don't have a life after business plan. Now, getting back to the the transition options. Most, like I said, most owners have no idea about all of the various transition options that are available to them. There are internal and external transfers. We're not going to have time to get into all the variables, but to summarize it, there is family transitions, MBO, which is a management buyout or employee buy-in. There's third-party sales, that's external, of course. Employee ownership trusts, there's co-op models, there's vendor take-back financing models, there's partial exits. Suffice it to say, each one of those options actually has different tax, financing, and community impacts. So without that information, it's pretty difficult for somebody to stand confidently and say, I think this is the path I want, or that I will explore. With that as well, depending on what your ultimate goals are, remember earlier, a minute ago, I said that our clients and our business owners typically look for one of three things or move their way through one of three things, and that's clarity, liquidity, and legacy. Well, depending on the path that ultimately suits your goals, your values, your desires, will also have an impact on what your sale proceeds are. Because depending on how you're transferring, it's going to have an impact on what your overall results, your net results are. I want to take, and we don't have, again, enough time, but I want to take a moment to talk about one of the really, there's a lot of talk about it. There's a lot of government highlighting and trying to bring this to the fore. There's been many conferences around this. Employee ownership and employee ownership trusts are actually one of the ways that the UK or over in Europe have approached ownership transfers for those that may not have a traditional successor. They may not have children. They may not have or any children that want to take over the business if it was a family business. But they do have a desire to preserve the legacy, the culture, and the community ties that they have. So if an employer, an owner is looking at, I want to net the most out of my transaction. I want my business to be a legacy business. I don't want it to just be sold to somebody that's going to wrap it up, pick it up, move it. I want it to stay rooted in my local community. And I want the people that help me build it to benefit it from this point forward. Employee ownership trusts and ESOPs, which is employee share ownership plans. There's multiple ways in which to get ownership, employee ownership integrated into companies, but this one has gotten a lot of attention, and they have thrown a lot of tax advantages at this because it does tend to be a really good solution for a lot of smaller companies and owners. So without spending too much time on that one, and of course, ask questions at the end, and by all means, reach out to us afterwards if you'd like more clarity or more depth in what we're talking about. Value killers. I just want to transition a little bit into, okay, so we know that it takes time, it takes planning, and it takes some knowledge, and at least it takes some information to see, okay, where might I want to go? Now, the readiness component or the assessments that people will go through, due diligence is another way to put it, when somebody is looking at actually entertaining a buyer option. There are things that are going to be value detractors. They're kind of the silent weight on a company. Owner dependency and key person risk is a substantial risk to business owners. If all the institutional knowledge of that company or everything has to pass over their desk or get, their seal of approval on it, that's going to cause a new owner uh, to be concerned about the continuity without that owner. Because buyers, if you look at buyers as investors like things that are certain, or at least they like to be able to have predictable investments. They understand what they're buying and what they need to do to get a greater rate of return. But when they move, like, the value of a business is not how successful it is with the owner at the helm. The true value of a business is how well it runs absent the owner. So there's that major discount that can be applied to the value of a business. Again, misconceptions. An owner thinks they know the value of their business. They say, I want to retire at 65. This is the approximate value. I'm going to somehow magically sell this to somebody that's going to give me that exact value on that exact date. I'm going to ride off into the sunset and be happily ever after. And it doesn't work that way, because a lot of times they also don't know that the value that they look at is based on a multiple that maybe they've pulled from industry statistics, or the guy across the street, or down the next community, or one city over, and they sold and were similar. So therefore I can expect, it does not work that way, because of all of the other risks that are inherent, or the nuances that are inherent in an individual's business. They can actually add value, or they can subtract value from that business, the enterprise value of that business. So we take a look at these value killers whenever and these are things too that you can try and keep in top of mind when you're having conversations with your owners, to see whether or not there are things that are going to depress the value of their business when they actually look to try and monetize. We also follow a framework in the work that we do that is referred to as the 3 legs of the stool. So if any leg, if you can imagine the 3 legs of a stool, we need to look at optimizing the value of the business prior to. That takes time. Ensure that the personal financial readiness of the owner is in good shape. And I can't tell you how many owners I meet every day that don't have any kind of financial plan, like a comprehensive financial plan that tells them what they are going to need to support themselves beyond the ownership of this business. That sounds strange, but it is very true. And I think we can do better, whether we're trying to hold sessions to highlight the importance of the actual personal financial planning that needs to be done even prior to entertaining an exit pathway. Because if you don't remember the slide, I said there's different values for different pathways that you choose. How do you know which value or pathway you must choose? Because the value that you need out of your business is that amount that gets plugged into your, how much do I need to sustain myself over my lifetime, for my retirement lifestyle. So if you think that you need 5 million, because your business needs to sell for 5 million to support your needs, but then we go back to the value killers and you haven't done some of that work, and now your business is worth 3. If you haven't put all of that together, or it's worth 30, or it's worth 300, whatever the number is, the clarity to know what do I need and what matters most to me helps to guide you down the appropriate path, and helps to determine the feasibility of that pathway as well. And again, of course, the life after business. So without any one of those legs, the plan falls over. It can't hold up. So I'd like to talk about, what does actual sale readiness look like? Well, sale readiness means that they have to have clean financials, independent management, documented processes, diversified revenue, and completed tax planning. So most people will have a few of these things, and a lot will have a lot of gaps in their readiness. And so the work that gets done prior to a sale is in this time frame. So depending, again, if you've got an internal family transition that you're wanting to enact and pursue, family transitions, the longer you have, the earlier that person gets in and starts working in whatever capacity is appropriate. So whether it's starting in a mailroom and ending at the CEO, president's corner seat, or whatever the owner structure looks like, 5 to 10 years is a really good length of time to be able to get somebody in, get them accustomed to, and that transfer, that mentorship and that transfer of management and that transfer of dependency off the original founder or owner can happen gradually. External sales, that is a bare minimum. If you're looking to go to market, whether it's a broad market or you've got a strategic buyer that's knocked on the door and said to your owners, hey, I'm interested in buying your business, you're out of time. It actually takes 18 to 24 months to get your business in the best shape it possibly can. Have we done it faster? Absolutely. Was it the best shape it could be? No. Did we get businesses de-risked in time so that they would reduce the amount of discounts applied to it so we could get the highest value possible? Yes, we can do it in sometimes very constricted timeframes. It's just not ideal. Value building, which is what the middle says, is 3 to 5 years in advance of a sale. Starting early, and value building, by the way, is the actual work where we spend most of our time. And value building is taking a company and making sure that it can pass due diligence. We can de-risk it. We can actually get the things that are going to cause those discounts out of the way. We can help prepare everything necessary to go through due diligence successfully. I'm going to harken back to the stats earlier. 80% of businesses do not actually transact successfully across Canada. Not only the first time, but sometimes the second time they go they go to market, or they try and go through a transaction with a potential buyer. Value building takes care of cleaning up an awful lot of that. But what it also does, and this is one of the best things about value building exercises, is that not only does it get you transition ready forever. So if somebody knocks on your door, or when the timing is right, it does not matter if it's 20 years or 25 years down the pathway, or if it's 2 years down the pathway. What will happen between the value building exercises and the actual transition timeline that you want to explore is you'll have a healthier company with greater EBITDA, better profits, higher margins, better credit worthiness, better culture. Like, there's so many advantages to it that we have actually experienced many owners who have gone through value building engagements with us over years, putting up their hand at the end and saying, I actually like my business more now, and I have more enjoyment in my life, and I have more time, and my staff have more autonomy, and they don't need me as much. I don't feel the pressures as much. I think I'm going to keep it. So businesses will end up flourishing and thriving through the process. And sometimes it can either prolong or change the decision of an owner who maybe is in one of the Ds, where they're just tired. They're disenchanted. They want out. Their business isn't distressed, but they're really not passionate about it anymore. The scale of the challenge, of course, and this is across Canada, is that we have a significant amount, like 1.2 baby boomer owned businesses. 1.2 million, sorry if I missed that part. Baby boomer owned businesses. Why that's important is because almost all of our communities are driven by baby boomer owner businesses. 40% of the economies are from that cohort. Okay, so there's 10.8 million jobs out there that fall into that cohort. $1.5 trillion of value that is trapped in all of those companies that are looking to be monetized. Again, that nasty 70 to 80% of businesses that fail to transfer, and 88% of family businesses that don't actually ever reach the third generation. So we have a lot of work to do. We have a really big mission. Together, though, I believe that we can absolutely tackle it better. Than it's a force multiplier when you collaborate. So working with you and your teams and all the other community support systems is something that we are proud to do, because, of course, it helps us in our overall mission, which is changing the outcomes, positively changing the outcomes for business owners across Canada. So the EDA role, as we sort of see it, is that you are a convener, a navigator, a champion, a connector, an advocate. You're the glue. Okay, you're the glue that holds resources together and champion continuity in every room. So if you're able to embrace the, okay, we got to get this as part of our strategies, how do you do that? Here's some practical ways you can implement these into your own existing strategies. So adding succession questions to your BRE visits. Add 5 or 6 really meaningful questions to better understand and to start like gathering data so that you can start tracking where different people are at in your catchment areas. Hosting quarterly clinics. I mean, you guys have Community Futures. I think you've got 27 or 28 different locations in Alberta. So you've got a good reach of Community Futures, I believe. And you can also maintain a confidential quiet listings registry. Start taking some names of people that are sharing with you and not wanting it to become public. That is a very big concern with owners, is that if they're contemplating any type of engagement or want to do work that sends them down a transition pathway or value acceleration, it can be disruptive to their business. But also we know that small towns talk. We also know everybody knows everybody's business, and it is something that they want to keep more confidential early stages for sure. So quiet listings and creating your own registry and trying to help like pair up or introduce or hosting. There's all sorts of different ways in which you can even host events that introduce owners and potential sellers. Sorry, owners and potential buyers. So encouraging employee buy-ins, EOTs, and VTB structures. VTB or vendor take-back. So that's where the actual owner is the bank, because a lot of times your small businesses, you're going to have a hard time getting an employee down to the bank and getting them enough cash or a loan to be able to outright purchase some of these businesses. So employee ownership trusts is an option. Vendor take-back strategies are also options for those that want to hand or continue to hold that note. Fund SOP documentation, micro grants, or find money. I mean, there are all sorts of different grants. I know that is a slog trying to find them all and bring them all, but if you had a resource or support system on your website to draw people's attention to what all of the different grants are that are available. The other big value killer is that people don't actually have a lot of their processes documented. Again, that owner dependency or key person dependency isn't just their knowledge and their foundational knowledge. It is, if somebody is now to be onboarded, you've got a new employee, well, where are all the SOP documentations and processes in print so that you've got that continuity, that stability? That's what buyers are going to be looking for. And tracking important metrics and impact metrics. So you've got how many firms are engaged, how many transitions are there, how many jobs are retained. What to listen for and to what to watch for are, of course, the 55% of exits. So that is a true statistical number. You've got burnout or health interruptions, if you know of them that are happening. If you've got declining performance, like actual operational performance or stalled growth within companies, if you're having these types of conversations, if you have your owners are having recruitment and retention issues, which we all know everybody is struggling with a lot of the recruitment issues. All of these are really great introductions and door openers for conversations with your owners. So what's working in other communities? There are a few other communities. I'm going to give you the I guess success stories, but other in just a moment. But other communities have embraced educational opportunities for business owners. We just did an entire where were we? We were in Saskatchewan, Esterhazy, Saskatchewan, of all places. So their economic development group got a hold of us, and we hosted most of their businesses off of Main Street were closed that day. They all showed up, and we had a half-day session. And we did the workshop for them to show them all the things, the fundamentals of kind of best in class or a business that would be what we would consider to be ready or on the verge of, and what to do to get ready. for any kind of transition, however far down the path and into the future it may be. One of the tenets that we live by is that transition ready businesses are just better businesses. The ones that are already ready, if they get a knock on the door, they know their value, they're already operating at that kind of excellence level because they've done the work, they're more valuable. So transition ready businesses are more valuable businesses. So access to professional advisors that can provide planning services, another one. Introduce, connect, create workshop opportunities. We do workshops all over the place. They don't always have to be in person either. Virtual workshops work. If COVID taught us anything, we don't always have to get on a plane. That was one outcome that brought us closer together, is Zoom and everything else that we do now virtually. Whoops, sorry about that. Look at all your different opportunities for your immigrant families that might be moving into your regions, cooperative opportunities and municipal ownership opportunities. So some local success story. Community Futures was involved in this one in Lakeland. I didn't know the name of this company, but it was an auto repair business, and it transitioned to the new owners via a Community Futures loan plus vendor financing. So it was a combination. I want to let you know also all those pathways, by the way, that I brought up earlier of all, options for transitions. Every transition, almost every single transition option can be combined with others. So you can have a partial management buyout. You can have a generational, like a family generational member come in as a new owner. You can have a employee ownership trust as well. It's amazing the different hybrids that we can construct to satisfy. I'd like a little, it's like a menu. I'd like a little of this and a little of this. It increases the complexities, but it definitely can solve a lot more of the owner's desires and goals and values by combining different things. Getting back to this one in Lakeland, of course, there was 8 jobs. So not a huge company, but a meaningful company and a pivotal, like a vital company in that community. 8 jobs were retained and that service continuity was maintained. One of the other ones was Barhead. There was a bakery, a local bakery sold to young AAIP couple. That was new energy that got infused into that community, and it increased downtown foot traffic. East Park. So your East Parkland region, sorry. 6, this is the one that I think that we've participated in most, is where you've got small catchment areas or you've got sparsity amongst your business owners spread out all over the place, especially rurally. So they had 6 municipalities with 90 owners attend, and they had 7 transitions on the inside of a year from that group. So that was a regional succession roadshow and readiness assessments that were completed and provided to those owners that attended. These are very high level, but I'm hoping I'm giving you some tips on how you can really integrate yourself into this succession problem challenge. It's a challenge. It's an opportunity, but it's also a challenge. So in looking at check-ins within your community, understanding your level of risk, we have an assessment tool. If you'd like it, we're happy to send it off. That can actually help you do some math and some financial calculations to see how at risk your community is with all of your own numbers. So it's specific to you. You can survey owners about their transition timelines. You can create specific network and awareness programs, a few I just mentioned, and uncovering and offering transition pathways, helping people understand what is available to them, and then enhancing, of course, your BRE efforts to include retention through transition. Create a business owner toolkit. We've helped others to add tools to their websites for owners to be able to access for free. There's a QR code on your screen right now. We'll also make all of this available to you after the webinar, so that you can actually do this and see what we're talking about. We have all of these assessments that we offer up for free. We offer them to owners, we offer them to communities, we offer them to anybody that wants to further this effort to help owners understand where they are today. So whatever it is that they need, better visibility and clarity, most of these will help them, give them really good insights into where their business is at, where they're at as an owner today. We will make them all available to you. So That one, though, I believe that is up on the screen is our succession plan. If you click on it, go through it, it will generate. I know that you may not be business owners, but if you could just put that hat on for a moment so you could test drive it, you would see by the answers that you give, and they're very short. Most of our assessments are anywhere from 10 to very well curated, 10 to 20 different questions. And I don't even think we have any that are 20. They might be 10 to 15. Regardless, it gives a report back that says how you scored and what it means and why it should matter to you, what it means. So how we can help, how if RFN can help you or help your members and your owners, we do all of the various things that we've been talking about. So if you have the desire to put on some of these different activities or make these resources available to your members, however you approach the experts in your region or across Canada, we support and respect it. Just get them together, whether it's us, whether it's our peers and our others that are the professions in our and have our disciplines. We have a huge mandate. There is an abundant market out there, and we cannot solve all of it on our own. So we champion anybody that is doing the work that we're doing to go and to partner with communities like yours and groups like yours to help spread the word and to help make better outcomes available to every owner, because they support our country. Thank you. With that, I will just wrap it up and open it up for questions. But I'd like to say that when one business dies, a piece of the community dies with it. And when one transitions successfully, hope multiplies. And you're the bridge builders, turning risks into opportunity. So let's keep Alberta owners ready for next.
Thanks, Cindy.
You're very welcome. I know I went over. I
it's all good. It's all good. Does anybody have any questions? Feel free to put them in the chat. Shane, you just mentioned something in the chat about working with Community Futures Highwood at the time. Do you want to expand on that just briefly?
Oh, yeah. I see. I think Monique LeBlanc might still be on. We had promoted a number of, or she might have, oh, yeah, there she is. We had promoted a number of these things about 15 years ago, but I think the tracking of the successes was really quite interesting with your business model and what you're able to do. Because back in those days, we would get accountants out, we would get farmers out, retailers, but being able to follow them through that journey and make sure that something occurred. And of course, there was a big push to have new immigrants take over businesses for a while. We've seen in Alberta the Ukrainian business piece as well. So your services, I'm on your website. I actually haven't heard of your company before. I'm sorry. So this is great.
That's quite all right.
Unless we've met, but I'm on here. I'm very interested. So you offer your services across Alberta, correct?
Yes, across Canada.
Okay, great.
Actually, internationally, but for this, yeah.
Anyway, it was just a bit of a reminiscing for me because I don't know if Monique wants to jump in, but I remember she was involved too with Community Futures. I think she's saying she's nodding no.
Well, we did. We actually attended. We're one of the speakers for the Economic Development Conference in Kananaskis in 2022. Yes. So if any of you were there and attended my session, I was with one of our other partners. I'm a founding partner. So one of our other, like the three of us that are on RFN are all partners with RFN. But we were in Kananaskis and hosted a session for your conference that was very well received. And I think a lot of the eyes, as we were talking about the statistics in the room, were like, oh my God, like it's alarming. It's not getting better. And a lot of that is simply because we have that massive cohort of baby boomers that are all wanting, like I said at the beginning, it's at opposite ends of the spectrum with how many are unprepared and how many want to leave, or not leave, that how many want to transition. Like 70, and this was, I believe, an Alberta statistic from the CFIB, was that 70-something% of Alberta business owners plan to retire, transition, exit, close, whatever that looks like, in 10 years. 9% have any kind of transition plan. It makes it difficult to see the successes that we need to keep the continuity in our communities.
Can you comment a little bit about the farming industry? I think the average age of a farmer now is Is it 69? It's up there.
Hey,
Yeah.
farming is one of my specialties, and I absolutely love talking about farm succession planning. But what specifically would you like? Like, I
Well,
will talk forever.
I'm
So
just wondering if,
try and ask me.
well, I'm wondering about like whether we're seeing uh, some of these farms are selling, they're amalgamating. I think they're getting
Yes.
larger, perhaps more
Yes.
foreign ownership because children and other generations might not want to do that anymore. Just can you comment a little bit about what you're seeing in that sector?
It's you nailed it. So we do have larger farms than we ever have before across Canada. We have fewer operators than we've ever had before. The value of these farms has grown so astronomically that people trying to get into it, there are massive barriers. So a lot of the transactions that we are seeing are still, a lot of the ones I work on, I shouldn't say this from a across Canada perspective, but a lot of them are still to next gen, so family transitions. I can tell you one of the hurdles, and this is going to be true for farming businesses and non-farming businesses, is that if these owners have more than one child, the difficulty in determining what is fair versus what is equal when they try to approach their estate planning is one of the non-starters for them to have a conversation, because they do not know how to overcome I have one or two that want to take over my largest asset, and I'm going to be giving them potentially a very significant discount, because farm ownership does not transfer in Canada at fair market value to next generation. It does not. There is a ton of tax advantages and rollover rules for all of the qualified businesses that help to prolong or to defer the taxes that are due, whereas an external transaction selling to a third party that's not within the family does trigger all of that tax due and payable upon that transaction. So a lot of family farms that transfer internally to family members transfer anywhere from 40 to 60% maximum across Canada. So the planning for the owners needing to understand how that farm can sustain that retiring generation and the next generation is a concern, but also now what do we do about the other children that are not involved? How do we treat them fairly? And that big question mark, we have analysis work, we have different types of tools to help them get through that so that they can see how to treat everybody well and communicate how they've arrived at their plans without creating disharmony or animosity, because that is one of the things that almost every owner will have. One of two stories. They'll have I know somebody that transferred well and has a great story, and I have one or 100 to every one that went well that transferred poorly. And so it keeps them from actually starting down the path a lot of times because they're afraid they're going to do it wrong, or they come from an environment where it might have been done wrong when they took over the business. So we have a lot of work to do to get them to the table. Have I worked with any cattle farm transition? Absolutely, I have. I'm sorry. We do have other questions.
We have other questions. No, it's all good. We have other questions going on in the chat right now. So I'll just get to those real quick. It's all good. Does the same process of succession planning work for not-for-profit organizations, or is that a bit different?
It works the same for not-for-profits, because the more optimal they run, the more cash flow they have, the greater work they can do. So when you're looking at value acceleration work, I would say that it applies as much to a nonprofit as a profit. When it comes to a transfer of leadership and ownership, it is slightly different. The planning on the other side, though, the conversations that have to be had, the people that are in those leadership roles and ownership roles still need to go through everything we just talked about to successfully transfer that to someone else. Because owning a nonprofit, you're still an owner. You're just working with a different mandate.
Okay. Monique, you had your hand raised. Did you get your question addressed?
Not quite. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, excellent. Sorry about that. Shane had referred to me and I was scrambling because my audio wasn't working earlier. But thank you. This is a really interesting topic. And Shane, I appreciate the mention because I do recall, and one of the issues that I found I was dealing with most was there was a reluctance, a very strong reluctance for business owners to admit it. So by the time any of the agencies that were able to help support them through that transition were even aware, then it tended to be too late. Therefore, it was an issue that now the town was losing, not only a business, but that employment as well. Were there any recommendations around how one can get a little bit more connected or be able to identify what signs there may be that indicates that a business may be wanting to transition?
I think that being direct with the reasons of being their advocate, so opening the conversations to ask them, 5 or 6 different questions that can give you insights, and we can talk about what some of those questions might be, but having conversations with your owners will identify some of the kind of critical issues such that I had already outlined. But I don't know your process if you visit or if you call, whatever that touch point is though that you have with your owners. You can easily say, you know what, we've recently, not even recently, you want to normalize this conversation. I want, like, you led into it with people didn't want to talk about it. It's not just a confidentiality thing, and it's a lot. It's wrapped up in their identity. It's wrapped up in their usefulness. It's wrapped up in a whole lot of psychological factors, not just financial factors. But the more that we can bring it out and talk about it and just say it's a natural, 100% natural point of a business's lifespan is to contemplate, what are you going to do if, you want to retire? Or have you ever thought about, if something were, I know this one, I'm always killing people in all of my examples when I'm talking to people. So I hate to be that individual that says, well, what if you die too soon? Or what if you got, hit in the head with a piano? Who would run the business? The reality is these answers need to be understood, or the questions need to be asked, because if they don't have the answer, your next statement is, let's help you find that. Like, let's get you some information. What's stopping you from knowing the answer to that question? Or what's preventing you from looking into reasonable solutions to that question? And you'll find out what matters most to them by asking them just why in their personal circumstances, or how in their personal circumstances they came into ownership. And then ask them, how was that? Like, if they were the buyer and never owned a business before, weren't from an entrepreneurial family, don't have a lot of friends that are also entrepreneurs, I'd be surprised. But a lot of them will have those experiences or knowledge of a lot of experiences that were good or bad. So you could start with a story and say, hey, so-and-so in the region just went through something like this, and it made me think of you. And I wanted to reach out to you and talk to you about this because it's a real, spotlight and something that we're trying to pay close attention to assist our owners and being successful. So, I don't know if that was a long way around answering your question, but I think there's so many opportunities for you to get in and have those conversations and start pulling out some of that information, that it's just your own comfort level in approaching some of the subjects.
We have another question. BDC has this new initiative supporting women purchasing businesses.
Yes.
So has there been any more tactical strategies to support women to connect with businesses for sale?
There are communities of succession matching, like there are different succession matching communities. I don't know of, and this is my lack of knowledge, not that there isn't any, specifically women owned, but we can dive into that, find out. We're also consultants with the BDC. So when your owners, and I failed to mention this, but we consult to the BDC. So if you have owners that are looking for some of those programs and you identify them as suitable, again, there's so many different pathways that they can actually see or pursue if you're bringing them to their attention, because BDC will finance the work. So if a business owner says, I don't have enough after-tax cash flow at the end of the day to entertain a value growth acceleration program over the next 2 years, or pay for lawyers and accountants and some of these other professionals that help me get my stuff together and fixed in better operational order. There are a lot of those programs that BDC offers, and they will finance them for the owner over a period of time that lowers, the outlay that owner has to endure in order to take their business from where they are to where they should be or where they could be. So I totally forgot to mention BDC is a fantastic option. Not for our purposes. There's tons and tons and tons of consultants with them, but they have great programs that you should look into.
All right, we'll move on. Troy, you had mentioned something in the chat about a trend in financing where the employees agree to purchase the businesses, and by the time the deal is actually formalized, and they come in to finance the purchase, the owner has obliterated the balance sheet on his way out and ultimately kills the deal because it is now unattractive to financing or investment. How common is that?
I wouldn't say it's super common, because it is 100% just shooting yourself in the foot, because your actual balance sheets that are shared are usually done under an NDA, like a non-disclosure agreement. You're providing certain known aspects, financial aspects about a company to a potential buyer prior to engaging in even a LOI. So, or an offer, or some sort of offer of interest, a letter of interest, or a letter of engagement, even to pursue more in-depth information prior to saying, yes, we're interested, here's what we'll pay, let's move into confirmatory due diligence. So there's this amount of information that is shared at the forefront through an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, keeps it confidential. Then the next look is, okay, now once that's signed, let's dig in a little deeper and look at some of the actual information that is in all of the financial statements. But that is, again, unconfirmed. So when you move through that phase into confirmatory due diligence, which is where you're saying they've obliterated the balance sheet, I'm assuming, is completely counter to the owner wanting to exit or seeing their way through. It should have been done. There's lots and lots and lots of assets on balance sheets that don't belong there. Normalizing them prior to ever having a conversation with a potential buyer is what needs to be done, so that you don't sell your boat, that your cabin doesn't go with, that your whatever it is, that all of your toys and bells and whistles and the things that you floated through your business that business owners do should not be something that the actual new buyer or the potential buyer thinks they're buying. And if you've got huge amounts of cash on your balance sheet, you've got to have a real analysis done to see what your working capital needs to be, because way too many owners sometimes have way too much cash on their balance sheets, and new buyers think that comes with it. Does not. So all of that should be cleaned up in advance of them being able to see that. I don't know if that answered your question, but I have not seen that happen very often, but I have seen people sabotage the sale towards the end, and it is almost never financial. Small percentage is financial, and a lot of it is psychological.
Suzanne, you had your hand raised. Did you get your question answered?
Well, no, a quick question, actually. I've seen a couple of times where very successful businesses find a buyer, do a vendor take back, but then partway through, maybe it's over 5 years, at year 3, the new buyer is now bankrupt. And so now the original owner is not getting compensated. Is there checklists or just words of caution that we can share with our clients that are looking at selling, and how to vet some of these buyers?
I don't know whether or not vetting other than if they have a track record as a previous owner before, and you could get some insights into how well that business did or is doing if they're still owning it. I don't know whether or not there are visibility and transparency into how they run a business. You could gain insights as an owner selling and doing vendor take back mortgages or financing. I would, if it were me and I was bankrolling something of that significance, I would want some sort of a management role, some sort of an oversight role for the duration of the loan, whether it's myself or I have somebody that is like a proxy to be overseeing and have a potential take back of the company if you see it going in a negative way. That I've seen before, where they can take their shares back. Not that a lot of owners who have transitioned want to jump back in, but it happens, and it happens a lot of times with family transitions, where the owner that's exited, the person has to come back in and help with some of the next generation's issues and challenges. But I would want to have a say, and I would want to have oversight for sure, well ironed out and locked down in the lending agreements.
All right. Well, it is 12:59. I think we're going to stop it there. I hope everyone has had their questions answered. And don't forget that in the email that will go out with the presentation and the link to the YouTube channel where you can rewatch the webinar, Cindy, I'll include your email address if that's okay. And
absolutely.
if you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to Cindy directly. So thanks everybody for joining us today. Once again, you will be receiving this information, and it was a really great discussion. So appreciate it very much. It's an important issue.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Looking forward to seeing you again.
Yes. Have a good day, everybody.
Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.